Hi there, good afternoon and welcome to another Budget Model Railways Tutorial Tuesday. So this is actually a subject I've been wanting to do for a little while, which is how to weather diesel locos much cheaper than using an airbrush or something like that. So what we're starting with are these fairly basic Hornby locos. So I like these, as everybody knows, they run quite well, but you know, even if I'm being a little bit honest, they are a little bit plasticky looking there. And what I wanted to do was add a little bit of realism. So what I've done is I've got to this stage where you can see I've got some subtle dry brushing along the wheels and the bottom of the loco, and I've painted the grills in to make them look more realistic. So hopefully what we've got here is a loco that looks a little bit more well used in real life. I'm not going for the extreme that I've seen some people do, because a lot of the photos I've seen suggest that very few locos got in such a sorry state. Most were kept relatively clean, and then what you picked up was all this brown road muck off the rails. And I'm actually quite pleased with this, given that I haven't used an airbrush or anything. So let's show you how we've done it. So the first thing to do is to make these panels, these grills, look a little less plasticky. And I've done most of them on here, but I'll just show you the last one. Now what I'm using here is a very matte black paint. This is actually called, this is XF69 NATO black, but any very flat matte black will do. And you need one of these, which is a little fine narrow brush. Now you can spend a lot of money these in model shops, but I find buying a pack from somewhere like Hobbycraft is fine. And it really just needs a steady hand to put it into the grills, like that. It's not that tricky. You've got a raised area there, and the paint will tend to run up against that. Don't put too much paint in, and just gently work your way around. Now, in fact, if you get a bit outside, it's relatively easy to get your finger or a bit of tissue and wipe it off, because the plastic's a little bit shiny. And then what that does is that gives you a slightly blacker looking grill. So rather than this very plasticky blue, we've now got, you can see there, if I try and get it into shot properly, a bit of a black, but not dark black, so it still looks right. So then the obvious thing now is how we do the actual weathering. So doing a little bit of reading, what I've got told is that just about everything on the rails in the diesel era ended up brown. So you can use whatever brown you like. Humbrol 29 is quite good, dark earth. I happen to have this, which is a Tamiya khaki, which is quite good. I have found that the paints do need a little bit of a stir each time. So we'll just sit and do that, and then Douglas can edit this out if this gets a bit boring. So there we go, we've got our paint all mixed up. Now you can get proper dry brushing brushes, and I have got one somewhere, but I can't find it. So that's made me improvise. So what I've got is a flat bristle brush here. I've taken a pair of scissors to it and dropped the bristles down to about 5 or 6 mil. But it needs to be quite a stiff brush. Put some paint on the brush, you don't need very much. And basically, just keep dabbing it off. You can use a piece of tissue, or you can use a piece of card, it's quite good, because that will then begin to show you how much paint you've got. And then very simply, all over where you're trying to do, and you'll see that that's already beginning to pick up the detail. Like that. And we're just rubbing the brush up and down, and that's beginning to put a little bit on. And all you do basically is just keep building up the layers. It's always better to do it that way, because once it's on, you can't take it off. Now, I don't mind if here it's going on a bit heavier, because these are the bogies that would pick up quite a lot of the muck. There we go. So we're going to need to keep working on that until we've got the look that we want. So now we're going to work on the body. Now you need to be a little bit more careful, because you've got no detail to pick up. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to give the impression of the muck that gets thrown up on the lower body. And to make it look right, so that we don't get any straight vertical or horizontal bits, dab the brush. Don't try doing brush strokes. And that should give you a very similar effect to an airbrush. And like I said, what we're looking for here is a very, very subtle, gentle build-up. A lot of people, they spoil this because they put too much on. Now, nice thing with the plastic is if like that, you get a little bit more than you want, you can just rub it off and do it again. And you can work it up the sides as far as you feel you want to, like that. Now, I just want to give an impression, so I'm quite happy with that. And then obviously you're going to do the same on your ends. Sorry, like this. Now the only thing I have found with the ends is that because they're yellow, they don't show up very well. So what I've got here is flat brown, which is a slightly darker brown. And I'm using that on the fronts just to give me a bit more definition on the yellow. So again, I'm just dabbing that on like that. And there we go. So that's the first side I've done, and then this side. And you can do what you like, so you can use the slightly darker brown. I quite like the second side I've just done, where I've worked it up the side a bit more. But that's all I'm trying to do here, is to give a bit of road dirt, make the bogies look less plastic, and a bit of mucks chucked up the side and over the fronts like they would have looked in service. And then pick the grills out just to make it all look a little less plasticky. So if you take something like that, say, oh, I'll try and keep it in shot, struggling a bit here, there we go, and something like that one, then you can just see the difference. Just gives you a slightly more real used look. But I've not used an airbrush, hasn't cost me an absolute fortune. So one more thing we're just going to try here. This is obviously the exhaust on the top of the Loco here. And all I'm going to do is we're going to, it's quite a watery paint this, so we're going to have to take quite a bit off. And we're just going to put, the same way, some marking on the top there. Again, it's very subtle, but you can just see it there. And again, I've seen this done with masses of gloss black paint. Completely wrong, really. We're just trying to make it look a little bit more lived in and used. And that's just given us the little sooting that you'd get along the top where the exhaust has come off. So on the layout, what you're aiming for there is just a Loco that looks a little bit more in use, a little bit more lived in. No need for an airbrush, 20, 30 pounds worth of airbrush. That's a £1 brush. There we go, £1 brush with the bristles cut off and a bit of tissue and practice. I practiced on old Locos. These are older Locos. The 25 actually had the roof repainted from an earlier, somebody earlier had bodged it with. But I'm quite happy with the finish that gives. So much so actually, I'm actually contemplating sitting and redoing quite a bit of my Loco fleet. I've got no intention of selling them again, so it doesn't bother me if somebody doesn't like the quality. But I quite like that. I think sat on the layout, that looks quite nice. So another typical thing for us, not much money, nice little effect. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think of this as a technique. But I'm quite pleased with it, so I'm actually tempted now to do quite a few of my Locos. So thank you as always for watching. So there we have it, and it's a nice little photo Doug's taken here, and you can see how the weathering stopped the bogies looking too plasticky, and a bit of dirt up the side and front of the Loco just makes it look a little bit more well used and lived in, and a little less, I guess, basic like the Hornby ones are. And with the grills painted in black as well, particularly the front one there, you can see that looks quite nice. So I think, bearing in mind that that Loco at the time cost me about £15, with a bit of weathering they look very nice indeed. Hi, thanks for watching the video and for the nice comments. Click on the left for a previous video in this series, click on the right for another video you might enjoy, and please don't forget to click to subscribe, like, comment, etc. Thanks again.